So this talk is the mysteries of E equals mc squared. Einstein is famous for the equation E equals mc squared, and there were a lot of mysteries attached to that. So this is one of Einstein's friends. It's Max Born, and he points out that Einstein gave no references or citations for what he was working from. So it gives the impression that relativity just springs from Einstein alone, when really there's a tradition of people working on relativity. So in the case of the equation E equals mc squared, we have the mystery: where did it come from? Einstein mentioned it, but did it come from Einstein's imagination, or did he get it from an earlier source? So many of the things that Einstein said, we don't know if he was being original or going by earlier sources. So we have many mysteries, but let's stick to the mystery of the equation E equals mc squared. Where did that come from? So in the Guardian article here, it points out there's one person who's saying that the equation E equals mc squared came from an earlier source, and that Einstein might have been told about it. It literally came from this person, Di Pretio. It goes into more detail here, where it's thought that Einstein got the idea from Di Pretio, and Di Pretio stumbled upon the equation, but not in the context of the theory of relativity, and he did that while speculating about ether. So there's other things you can worry about. Where did Einstein's ideas come from? Like there's a German called David Hilbert, and how much do you attribute to him and how much do you attribute to Einstein? And as I note here, as Edmund Robertson points out, a great deal of mathematics has not been credited to those who originally did it. But what sort of proof does he want in regard to E equals mc squared? The equation was given before Einstein mentioned it. So we have the mystery that the equation was mentioned before Einstein, but we have other mysteries associated with the equation. Einstein did not give his theory of special relativity until 1905. Since the equation was mentioned before 1905, should it then be interpreted from the context of Newtonian physics, with it not being unique to special relativity? Questions like this just go unanswered by the mainstream as they pile mystery on top of mystery. So really, what are the mainstream talking about? They're just giving us mysteries. Often they tell us that special relativity is a different theory to Newtonian physics, and they tell us that E equals mc squared is part of special relativity and not Newtonian physics. But I disagree with all that. You've got the equation before Einstein's 1905 paper on special relativity, and I reckon that they've misinterpreted what Einstein was saying in that paper. So what they're saying about Newtonian physics being different to special relativity, they've also got wrong. So they're just piling mystery on top of mystery, saying things which don't make any sense. So we're going by this paper, Einstein's E equals mc squared mistakes by Ohanian. He points out that Einstein never gave a proper proof of the equation E equals mc squared. So we can't count on Einstein as deriving us the equation. And this is the person Ohanian. He's a physicist, so he should be a reliable source. However, if we go to other examples such as distance, such as this distance, for example, or your distance, a person who thinks Einstein's relativity is wrong. Let's consider this person is Tom Bethel. He was an American journalist. And so this is what Bethel says: a major turning point in the public's understanding of science came about a century ago with the introduction of Einstein's special and general theories of relativity. Before then, educated laymen were expected to and usually could understand new developments in science, at least in outline. After Einstein, this changed. Science moved beyond the ken of educated laymen who didn't understand what these new arguments were about. Then stick to your poetry or perhaps your knitting. Science was becoming a private party to which you weren't invited, except that increasingly your taxis were expected to pay for it. So what he's pointing out here is science became, in the physics part of it, became incomprehensible to most laymen. But before that, science was understandable, i.e. within the context of Newtonian physics. But sort of with special relativity and general relativity, which you get from Einstein, suddenly you're having all these mysteries piled upon it, which is making the subject incomprehensible. E equals mc squared, where it should be understandable within the context of Newtonian physics, but suddenly they're telling you, no, it's not that theory, it's some other theory, relativity, and they're not explaining properly how. And so it just becomes a mystery. What they wanted to say to you, to the general public, from the physics community, is just mystery piled upon mystery. So he's making a good point. Most of the general public is not aware what Einstein's relativity is about. Bethel goes on to explain. I'll try to explain that difficulty, but first let me make a simple clarification. What about E equals mc squared? You might ask, surely that must be true, and was it not based on relativity? It is the one thing that laymen know about relativity, and here we come to something that the easy Einstein books and most of the not so easy ones never tell you. Yes, the famous equation was derived from relativity theory, but Einstein himself also derived it years later without relativity. So I think what note here is he believes many things that the mainstream have been saying about E equals mc squared, when, as pointed out earlier from Ohanian and other sources, mainstream gets it wrong. And notably, they're wrong about Einstein's equation E equals mc squared. Einstein did not properly derive it. So those distants who think Einstein's relativity is wrong are in the awkward position of going from information from the mainstream about relativity. And the mainstream is getting things wrong. So Einstein didn't even derive the equation E equals mc squared properly in the context of his theory. It thus becomes a mystery why many associate the equation with special relativity. Surely it is then an equation not in the context of special relativity, but instead in the context of Newtonian physics. We look to people like Einstein for answers to these mysteries, and of course he provides no answers. Einstein and those associated with him are quite ready to create mysteries, but they're not providing answers to those mysteries. As pointed out in other videos, Einstein's relativity is incomplete, and it's particularly incomplete in not providing answers to any of the mysteries that it generates. So this is an example of someone saying Einstein's relativity is incomplete. And this is a professor of astrophysics and so forth. And she's saying in her article, was Einstein one question mark? No, his theories are simply incomplete. So they want to talk about Einstein as Einstein's relativity as being incomplete, rather than talk about Einstein's relativity being wrong. So my conclusions on that is, so many in the mainstream are happy to accept that Einstein's relativity and carry on believing in it despite all the mysteries it creates by its incompleteness. That's the end finished. Thank you.